The sudden attack by Hamas on Saturday has not only brought numerous casualties on Israeli settling in Haza, but also led similarly deadly retaliatory attacks by Israel forces. The latest measure taken by Israel is to bomb the Rafah Crossing, the passage for incoming humanitarian aids for Gazans. To get an update on the latest development in Gaza and the implications of the crisis in Palestine and the region, we will talk with Allan Behm, head of the International and Security Affairs Program at the Australia Institute. Allan, thank you so much for joining us. The attack by Hamas and the response by Israel have received a widespread and different responses across the globe. How do you see the international community's view and response to the conflict in Gaza and Palestine, Allan?
Well, Uli, the international community sees this as a very dangerous moment, very dangerous for the people of Gaza, obviously, but also very dangerous more broadly for the people of the Middle East. We had hoped, I think, all of us, that there would be a period and a measure of stability in Israel for now. And of course, that has now been broken by the Hamas attack that occurred on Saturday. It's a very dangerous situation.
Allan, how do you see the U.S.'s response on the Hamas attack and on Biden's vows to support Israel with funds and weaponry?
Look, that's a very standard US response, I think. The United States has long been a direct supporter of Israel. Your viewers would know that there is a very big Jewish community in the United States, and they are politically effective. So the United States is always acting in support of Israel. The consequences at this point, though, are much more complex than usual. There is effectively a non-functioning Congress for the moment while there is no speaker. And we know that from that, the United States will now not be able to support the war in Ukraine, which means that all of the armaments that were set aside for Ukraine will probably now go to Israel. So we have the United States very quickly able to act in support of Israel, and that, I think, will give the Israelis some comfort, but it may not, I think, cause very much support for the United States amongst the Arab neighbours of Israel.
There have been calls for ceasefire. Will it be effective as Israel has considered the attack as a declaration of war from Hamas or Palestine? Allan?
Look, that's a really important question, Uli, I think. You can't actually conduct a war with a terrorist group. I mean, you can say that you're going to war, but in fact, war is an action that takes place between states. So what we have here is a high level of political rhetoric, obviously. Israel was taken by surprise, and Israel is angry, and it will respond. But fundamentally, the issue here is one of human security. It's the human security of the people of Israel and, of course, the human security of the people of Gaza and of the West Bank. And for that reason, the calls for restraint are very important. We already know that there are upwards of 4,000 casualties awaiting hospitalisation in Gaza. The hospitals are massively overloaded, and the attack on Rafah, the only international entry into Gaza at the moment, is a dangerous development because it means that international aid simply can't get in. So at the moment, restraint would be very important if the people who live in Gaza are to be able to expect anything like the sort of food aid, the sort of medical aid that is necessary in these circumstances.
What should be the efforts for a long-term solution to the conflict in Gaza and in the Palestine? Does the two-state solution remain relevant until today, Allan?
Look, most of the international community wants a two-state solution, Uli, but I'd have to say that will be very, very difficult to achieve in present circumstances. there is a very, very big breakdown in confidence and in trust in the Middle East. There's a breakdown now in the talks between Israel and Saudi Arabia. We do not know at this point what the reactions of Iran are likely to be. Although the United States has told Iran to be very careful, it is still very difficult to see where this is going to go. So progress on a two-state solution, I think, has been set back. The best that could happen in the short term would be a ceasefire whereby the civilian population of Gaza can be cared for, can get proper international support, and can get proper medical treatment. This, I think, would be the top priority, because after all, no state can be secure if its people are not secure. And at this point, neither the people of Gaza nor the people bordering Gaza in Israel are secure, and that, I think, is at the heart of the problem.
What roles should a big nation and international organization play in a supporting element of conflict in Gaza and Palestine, Allan?
I think it's critical for international organizations to encourage all parties to put down their arms, to stop firing bombs at each other, and to do what governments everywhere have a primary responsibility to do, which is to look after their own citizens. I think that that's a critical thing for the Netanyahu government. It must look after the citizens of Israel, both protecting those who've already been injured, but also protecting everyone else against further attacks. And equally, it's very important for the Palestinian government to work to secure the safety and the well-being of its own population. You can't do that when people are bombing each other. You have, first of all, to have a ceasefire, and that is what the international organisations will most certainly be encouraging.
How do you see the role of United Nations in handling and mediating conflict in Gaza and Palestine? Is the UN mechanism effective, Allan?
Look, the UN mechanism is always under pressure. The tensions in the Security Council are evident. Countries such as Russia have a very different view from the countries such as the United States. Russia has links with Syria. We already know that there are problems now on the Israeli-Syrian border. So for the Security Council to exercise its role, it will require very, very great care by the Security Council, and I think considerable political pressure by all of the rest of the members of the United Nations. As I said at the beginning of this segment, Uli, the situation in the Middle East is very, very precarious. It is very dangerous. It will require forbearance on the part of the major parties, and it will require a lot of care and a lot of support from the rest of the United Nations members to ensure that the people of Palestine and the people of Israel are themselves safe and secure and free from the threat of armed force. And that, after all, is the fundamental purpose of the United Nations.
What is your opinion on Israel's bombing of the Rafah Crossing, Allan?
Look, I can understand why Israel has done that, but I think it is a backward step. The Rafah Crossing is effectively the only avenue by which international aid can get into the Gaza Strip, and it is imperative that international organisations can move quickly to alleviate the suffering of the people of Palestine, but particularly the people of the Gaza Strip. Now, Egypt has quite properly reacted to the bombing of the Rafah entry by closing it, and that's simply to protect its own people on each side of the border. That border opening must be reopened as soon as possible to allow the international community to do what the international community always does best, which is to act immediately in support of people who've been injured and people who lack food. That is the imperative.
Last question, Allan. Based on your analysis of Australia's Institute analysis, will the conflict in Gaza escalate into greater conflict in the region?
That is the worry, I think, Uli, that everybody's got. Certainly the Australian government has declared that it's important that Israel can defend itself, but equally it has declared that it is very important that the people are themselves not subject to military threats. And in this case, I think everybody, including Australia, will be wanting to see a very quick move towards a ceasefire so that people can get back to some semblance of a normal life for those 2 million people who live on the Gaza Strip and for the hundreds of thousands of Israelis who live very close to that border. That really is the issue. But as I said at the beginning, Uli, it is a very dangerous situation. Escalation can always occur. And if one party or another miscalculates, we could see a conflagration in the Middle East with all sorts of unpredictable consequences. It is very, very dangerous.
Thank you for your expertise, Allan Behm, Head of the International and Security Affairs Program at the Australia Institute. Thank you.